So this is a question that a lot of people want to know. How should I proceed when it comes to advising my child about taking advanced courses, especially algebra, because that seems to be a gatekeeper for students as they get to be older. And so that is one of the more popular topics on my blog, collegesavvycoach.com. And I thought I would come here to say, this is what I want to, these are my recommendations. Actually, I saw that you said something, but, thanks, Ashley. But I can't see the comments at the bottom. So darn this Periscope. At one point, I will conquer this medium. But until then, I'm just going to go ahead and give a value and hopefully touch on a topic that everyone will find value in. So the first thing I want to say is that my name is SiaKnight, and I have been in education for about 20 years now. And let me count down the jobs that I've had in education. I've been a teacher. I was a high school social studies teacher. Then I moved over to become a school counselor in a high school. Then I ran a college access program for a large school division. And now I came back to the schools. I missed them. I missed the schools. So now I'm an assistant principal in a high school in Virginia. I almost said the high school, and I don't want to quite do that, but I'm an assistant principal at a high school in Virginia. So I have been around young people for quite some time. And since my time at the county level, working with students on college readiness, I've also spun off and become the College Savvy Coach. And I have group coaching workshops and presentations that I give to primarily parents, because what I find is that students sometimes or oftentimes in this area are given the information. They're just not as tuned in as the parents are when it comes to kind of the information about course selection, scholarships, the application process until they reach that 11th and 12th grade year, which it's almost too late at that point. So I like to work with families if their students are in middle school. So like grades 8 through 10 are just like my favorite folks to work with, because I can really, I think, make a difference in terms of some of the things that they're doing that will help them in their college journey. So enough about me. I just wanted to give you some background on kind of what I do and who I am. And I want to talk about the topic of middle school algebra. Middle school algebra. And when I was the director of student services for a bit, I filled in for someone at a middle school, and they give a test in which students, they show whether or not they are ready for algebra. So these were 6th grade students, and it told the parents and the school whether or not that student was ready to take Algebra 1 in 7th grade. And I understand that there's some school divisions where they're going younger and younger with this abstract math. And so parents would ask me all the time, should my child take this algebra in 7th grade? And there were three things that I told them to consider when they are making that very important decision. Okay. Number one, if your child takes algebra in middle school, or takes an advanced math class in middle school, they are going to be expected to follow that course of studies throughout high school. So in many school divisions, it's algebra. So let's say algebra 7th grade, geometry 8th grade, algebra 2 9th. Okay. Then there's pre-calculus and trig 10th. Then there's calculus AB 11th, and then maybe calculus BC in 12th grade. So sometimes folks don't kind of really think it through in terms of what students are going to be expected to take when they leave 7th grade. And it's one of those things. I've seen many students kind of experience that mid-high school math burnout. And you have to know your child and know whether or not you think that they will hit a wall once they get to high school. So, you have to ask the question, does my child really like math? Okay. And also kind of, is this something that I can see my child following through, going to those really high advanced classes in upper high school? Because colleges would rather see a student start algebra in 9th grade and continue to go as far as he or she could go until 12th grade than to see a student start algebra in 7th grade and say discontinue at 10th grade. So kind of keep that in mind, folks. Okay, so that's one tip I told parents to consider. The second tip that I would ask, thanks, Ashley, for inviting people. And I'm going to turn my other phone off. The other point that I would ask students to consider and parents to consider is that some universities, and this was a surprise to me when I found out about this maybe about 5 years ago. Some universities don't count middle school classes for admission, even if they are high school credit classes. And I found out about this. I visited a university who talked about the fact that when they look at a student's transcript, they only look at the high school courses. And that was quite a shock because a lot of parents have their students take foreign language or world languages or math in middle school in an effort to kind of get the students more of an advantage in high school and also for the college admissions process. So the best thing to do is to think about the fact that if you are pushing your child to take algebra in middle school because you think it's going to help with the college admissions process, your child's dream school may not even take that into consideration, may not take those middle school classes into consideration. So just something else to think about, okay? And the third thing I have parents think about when considering whether or not to put their child, their middle school student, into algebra or another advanced course. I used to have an expression when I was a school counselor, and I had to bring it out often. Just because you can do something, it doesn't mean that you should do it. And it's hard because we as parents feel like, you don't want your child to miss out on an opportunity. And is this going to lead to academic mediocrity for the rest of the child's life if I don't have this child take this algebra as a middle school student? So there are a couple things I want you to think about when you are considering whether or not the student should take middle school algebra. Number one, does your student love math? If your student doesn't love math, but they can do it at this point, just think about this. They're middle school, they're maybe a little bit more compliant, maybe a little less distracted, maybe. And so as you go along in high school, it may be more of a struggle to have him or her to really kind of dig in and do all of the homework that's going to be required, or all of the classwork that's going to be required in those upper level math classes. So the second thing, another thing that I want you to think about, because, just because your child can do it, we know that Skippy is smart. Skippy is a genius. But if by the time he hits 11th grade, he's going to be completely burned out, then you need to kind of take a second look. Take a second look as to whether or not your child should go into algebra in middle school. And so just really sit back and think about that. And also kind of think about whether or not, and as a parent, I'm going to go ahead and confess, sometimes this is me. Are you bowing to some social pressure and are you enjoying the fact that your child has gotten these wonderful scores and has qualified to go into algebra, and because of that you may kind of go against your better thoughts, and you may kind of say, all right, Skippy, I know you don't really want to do this and maybe I shouldn't, but go ahead, because the ladies at the pool will really be impressed when they find out that Skippy's taking algebra. So, I mean, and I'm not judging. I'm not trying to throw shade at anyone who feels as if they want to be a proud parent, but I do want you to kind of consider whether or not it is the best thing for your child, and not just for us as parents. So those are some things that I want you to think about when you are considering whether or not your middle schooler should take algebra. Now, this is the point where I would say, are there any questions? Do you have any comments at the bottom of my screen? So, there could be 1,000 people here wanting to comment, wanting to engage in really, really juicy and serious dialogue. However, I can't see you. So I would just say this. I teach about these topics all the time. Sometimes I have webinars. Sometimes I'll do a teleseminar, so just on the phone. And because I love to give information to parents. It should not be a mystery. It shouldn't be kind of something that you kind of go behind the curtain to figure out this college process. And if you are a person who didn't go to college, or you didn't go to a four-year university in this country, or if you went to college in 1802 like I did, things have changed a lot. So that's where I come in. I come in to help people make it through this process. My primary means of doing that are through presentations and workshops and that sort of thing. But if you go to my website, collegesavvycoach.com, I do have a tab in the lower right-hand corner. You can contact me. I do free 15-minute consultations, and there's lots and lots of articles on about the college process, how to make things smoother, and how to kind of be smarter and take some of the stress and the pressure off of this process, because sometimes we as parents, we have to kind of take the wheel and just say, hey, I know this is your process. I'm not going to do everything. This is when your child's in 12th grade. I'm not going to do everything for you. However, I will be checking in on a daily basis to find out kind of how's that calendar coming. Did you register for the SAT, ACT? Have you looked at the essays that your colleges are requiring? So those are the types of things that we as parents have to kind of stay on top of. And unfortunately, you don't know what you don't know. So I'm here